This is Personal Injury Court.
Your documents indicate that you have $150,000 in past medicals, you're seeking $100,000 in future medicals, and you want this court to award you $250,000 for pain and suffering for a total of $500,000. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. and Mrs. Carter.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's my understanding from what you all have submitted to this court, y'all believe that he got injuries from being a tree trimmer and that it's not your fault, although it happened on your property.
Correct.
Exactly.
But this is his fault.
It is his fault.
It's his job.
All right. So, folks, I've reviewed the documents that you've submitted to this court. Now, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, Mr. Griffin, my understanding is that you're a tree trimmer, right?
That's accurate.
Tell me what that entails.
Well, first, let me give you a little bit of backstory. I served in the military for 6 years.
And thank you for your service.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Got out in 2004. I've been a gardener for about 9 years. I really enjoy it because, you know, beautifying somebody's lawn, bringing them joy and something like that, that's just things that I really feel rewarded for.
Is it fair to say you know what you're doing as a gardener?
I would like to think so after 9 years, sir.
Okay. Now, you've done some work for the Carters before?
I have. For about 5 years, I've been doing work on and off. My cousin Dwayne here, he helps me out whenever we're doing any area work or any bigger jobs.
Okay, what were you supposed to do?
What was I supposed to do? I was basically supposed to go up this tree, trim it down for a party that they have coming up. And yeah, that's when I got attacked by Splinter and his two cousins.
Now, you've trimmed trees before, right?
Absolutely.
You've trimmed tall trees before.
I have.
So this wasn't a new task for you?
No.
Mr. and Mrs. Carter, this incident happened on your property, didn't it?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you all were planning a party of some sort. Tell me about that.
So, I've been an investment banker for about 20 years.
Yes, sir.
I retired early because I wasn't spending enough time at my lovely life or a beautiful property. We're about to celebrate our 20th anniversary. And
congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate that. And she really wanted things perfect. And I said, you know what, money's no object. You do what you need to do to get this place up right.
We've had Scott come over many times. He's worked 5 years for us and he's always done a professional job.
Now, this is your property, right?
Yes.
Y'all have done pretty well for yourself.
Yeah, we feel like we have.
This was going to be a big soiree, huh?
It
yes,
sure was.
75 people.
So, Mr. Griffin, you understand what you were supposed to do as to
Absolutely, Your
trimming
Honor.
the trees, right?
I've done it before for him. I've done it before for other properties.
Tell me how you got hurt as a tree trimmer.
All right, well, we got started setting up. Every time we do a setup, we always go through preventive maintenance.
What's that entail, the preventive
Basically, we inspect all of the mechanical components. We inspect all the ropes for frays, tears, or anything like that. We check our harnesses.
And how'd you fall?
We'll
I'll
get to that.
that.
We'll get to that. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Anyhow, he's responsible for setting the top and the lower portions of the mechanism.
And your cousin was there with you that day?
That's accurate.
Okay.
So he sets it up, I put on the harness, shimmy up there. I'm starting to do, remove these leaves with the chainsaw that I have. It's just a little small chainsaw.
So you got a little chainsaw.
Little bitty one.
And what are you pulling off? Are they branches? What are they?
It's basically the palm leaves. I climb up there, I start pulling back some of the brush that's up in there, and next thing you know, I've got this swarm of rats that start coming at me because I guess I started messing with their nest or whatever the heck it was.
They came out of the tree?
Yeah, they started flying at me, started clawing me.
Oh, man.
All kinds of other crap.
That gets, snakes and rats are my thing.
Well, yeah, so
makes my skin crawl.
Nothing prepares you for nutri-rats coming at your face.
Now, Mr. Griffin, you actually submitted a video to this court of the actual rat encounter.
That's accurate.
Let's take a look at it. You are there and trying to pull away.
Right, I am pulling away some of the brush, like I mentioned before.
Now, what's that?
That is actually one of the rats. There's one right there. Okay. So that rat comes over, and that's actually jumping on me, and there's actually more in there about to jump on me as well.
And they eventually get on you.
Yeah, they were on me. They were on me in my shirt, biting my chest, which I have additional photos of.
Yeah, you did submit some of those.
I actually have them right here if you need to see them, Your Honor.
Matt, please get the photo.
I mean, there's other images in here that show the other injuries that I sustained during the process.
So what are we looking at here?
This right here is basically some of the claw marks that were on my arm. If you go to the next one, you'll look at some of the bite marks on my chest.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
What would you estimate? How many rats were on you?
Probably about at least a good 8 or 9.
Oh, man. Okay. You are suing Mr. Abernathy for rattlesnake bites to your hand from property that you recently purchased from him. You're asking this court for a total award of $330,000, and that includes $65,000 for medical expenses, $250,000 for pain and suffering, and $15,000 for snake removal because there are still snakes on your property. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is a video of the snakes on your property?
Yes, it is.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, you don't believe this is your fault because you said you didn't know that there were snakes on their property.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is as big of a surprise to you as it is to them.
I had no idea.
Well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, tell me how you all chose to buy this property.
Well, me and my wife, Kim, had been discussing having more children. We already have one 4-year-old. We found a beautiful house owned by the defendant.
What was special about this property?
From a woman's point of view.
That's what I wanted to
Yes. Look at it. It's so perfect.
It
Have
is
the
beautiful.
perfect view. It's huge. I do want, 2, 3 more kids.
Okay.
And this was perfect. It has space for a pool, a huge front and backyard. I mean, it's 2 acres. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
Now, Mr. Abernathy, how did you come to even have this property?
Well, my family has had 5 acres of desert land all my life.
Okay.
And I needed some extra cash. So I took 2 acres of the land and I built this house on it. I agree. It's a beautiful house. It's perfect for a growing family. And I sold it to these folks.
So you're happy to sell them the property?
Absolutely.
What happened to the other property?
The other property I've kept for myself.
All right, so you all buy the house, right? And then what happens?
Well, a couple of weeks after we bought the house, my daughter, she's getting into soccer. She's 4. We went outside just to practice and play around, kick the ball around. And it rolled off. We're in the desert. You can see we have a lot of brush on our property.
Sure.
And the ball just, it got into some brush far away from me. I had to go chase it down. I didn't want her to go chase it.
Okay.
Well, I came over to the bush and I started reaching inside of it. I wasn't sure what it was right away,
Okay.
but I felt something just sink into my hand. I jumped back and I looked down at it and I could see there was a snake in the bush. I felt those fangs sink into my hand.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Snakes don't just bite people unprovoked.
Okay.
I mean, he would have had to have been messing with
Now that snake looks like it bites. Now, is this the
Someone's
kind
out
of
there
snake that bit
provoking
you?
that problem.
Yes, Your Honor, it was a rattlesnake.
And you know what? They bought a house in a desert. There are going to
Okay.
be snakes there.
So
You're not
just
going to have
forget
polar
about the
bears in
balls?
the desert.
And so,
Yeah.
so being out in the desert, you owned this property. Did you ever see snakes out there before you sold them this property?
Not on this property, Your Honor.
Oh, you're
I don't
lying.
want to blame the victim, but it's definitely his fault if he got
Well,
bit by.
let me understand this. Let me understand this. You're out there with your daughter.
Yes.
You all are kicking the ball around. The ball goes into the bushes. You reach for the ball, and then what happens?
I didn't realize it was a snake at first, but looking back on it, that I felt those fangs sink into my hand, and it was just so painful. Immediately, I felt like I could feel a really terrible burning sensation that just started migrating all through my arm.
I could hear him screaming.
So
I
that's
was
how you knew
inside
something
the
was
house.
wrong?
Yes. I was inside the house and I could hear him screaming, the kind of scream that you just know something is bad.
My mom would say those are mommy's ears.
And yes, I knew my daughter was outside too.
Yes, she
So
was.
I ran outside and I see my daughter just paralyzed, staring at Daddy, and Daddy is bleeding.
So your
Your
little
Honor.
girl saw this.
Yes.
I was terrified for her to see that. There
No
was blood
kid should have
everywhere.
to watch that. No kid should have to be in
Mr.
those
Abernathy,
circumstances.
How is this my problem? I didn't know there were snakes on that land when I sold it to them.
Mr. Abernathy, hold on for a minute.
Okay.
Now, you realize that he had a terrible snake bite, right?
I'm sorry.
With
got
his
that.
little girl watching. Now, you didn't know that there were snakes on his property, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Now, what was your idea of the property before you sold it in terms of whether snakes were on there?
I didn't know there were snakes on the property.
So, Mr. Abernathy, this is not your fault.
No, Your Honor. I did not know there were snakes on the property. They purchased the land. It's their land.
Did it surprise you that there were snakes on the property? You did say it was the desert.
It is the desert. Yeah, I've never seen snakes on that land. All the time during the construction, never saw one.
Mr. Cooper, you are suing Miss Jenkins for injuries that you sustained when her dog bit you at her house while you were providing a service. You've asked this court to award you $18,000 for past medicals, $12,000 for future medicals, $250,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $280,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Jenkins, you claim that you gave clear instructions as to what Mr. Cooper was supposed to do, and had he followed those instructions, he would have never met your dog, true?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's get into the legal sauce. Now, what kind of service were you providing to Ms. Jenkins?
I'm a HVAC repairman, sir. Air conditioning and heating.
Yes, sir. How long you been doing that?
About 10 years now.
What led you to provide service at Ms. Jenkins' house?
I work for a company, and I was out doing another service call. I just put in an air handler, and the dispatcher gave me the work order for Mrs. Jenkins.
And what were you supposed to do at her house?
She just said the AC doesn't work. To tell you the truth, a lot of times I don't know what I'm in for.
Ms. Jenkins, so you had a hot house.
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And you needed him to come and make it cooler.
Exactly.
Tell me about that day.
Well, Your Honor, my air conditioner was out, and it was very, very hot. There was a heat wave, and it was unbearable for me and my family. So I called an air conditioner company just to see if they can get an air person out. And they said yes, so I made the appointment for him to come out. And so just to stay cool, I went to stand by the pool until he came.
So, Mr. Cooper, when you arrived at the house, what happened?
Well, I was supposed to text the customer, and I did, and I got a text back, and they told me where to park, and usually they tell me where to come in. I got a text that said, go through the door on the left.
And who sent that text to you?
I believe it was her son.
Tell me how you got injured.
I pulled up into the driveway like they asked me to, and I pulled on under some trees because I didn't know how long I was going to be there, and if I'm there late or whatever, I want to eat some lunch, I don't want to be in like under the blazing sun, so I parked under the trees, and I looked, and they said, enter through the door on the left. So
okay.
I looked over to my left, and there was a door. And, the front door is there, too, but I haven't once been welcomed yet in the front door of somebody's house because I got tools, and I got grease and, everything on my boots, and they don't want me to walk right through their front door.
Had you ever been to Miss Jenkins' house before this day?
No, never.
So what happened?
I go and I start looking around, and usually, there's an outside door, and this is just usual, and there's an outside door, and I walk into it's either a room or a small garage or a mud room or whatever, and then there's another entry door.
Okay.
And there's been so many times that I'm banging on that one door, and nobody comes out, that I've just, naturally, since I was there for a work order, I would now just start going inside, and I'll knock on the inside door.
Okay.
So I go and I shut the door, and I start moving towards the other door, and I hear a noise, and next thing you know, I got this dog. It latches onto my arm. My tools drop. I mean, the thing was ripping. I never heard flesh rip before, but I'm sitting there, I'm pushing on the dog, and it's ripping, and finally, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I felt bad for the dog because I punched it in the head, and it let go of my arm, and then it grabbed a hold of my leg and pulled a piece of flesh off my shin.
Are you kidding me?
So then I kick it off my leg, and then it jumps back on my arm again. It was horrible. I thought, well, this is where I'm going to die.
So this dog was mauling you?
Yeah, I couldn't get it off of me.
And you thought you were going to die?
I was pretty sure because by that time I had blood in my eyes, and I couldn't see the swat or nothing. I was sure he was going for my neck.
I guess if you went down to the floor, this could be a death case.
Oh,
Miss Jenkins, is your dog capable of killing somebody?
Not at all, Your Honor. Not at all. My dog is not vicious, Your Honor.
What's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Pancakes.
Pancake?
Yes.
Okay, he looks like a good guy.
Oh, amazing, amazing, amazing.
And you raised him from the time he was a puppy?
Yes, I raised him from the time he was a puppy, and I got him professionally trained.
Okay.
Yes.
You had a trainer work with him?
I had a trainer, yes, because I needed him for protection, Your Honor.
And this is Pancakes as a little guy?
That's my baby. Oh, yeah, that's Pancakes.
Now, Mr. Cooper, that's not the dog that bit you, right? Not that little puppy, it's the other one.
No, that's the dog. And everybody's acting like, oh, the poor little dog. She said he had the thing trained. That thing is trained to kill.
I did have him professionally trained. You just didn't follow instructions. That's what it was.
Miss Jenkins,